Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Wanda Wilson. I'm Executive Director of Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. So thanks for joining us. We're going to begin our agenda with some announcements, and we have 2 items for presentations tonight on our agenda. And I'll go over just a few housekeeping items for the meeting tonight. We will ask presenters to turn their video on when their item comes on the agenda. And we'll have the comments from members of the community, primarily through the chat feature, which we'll be monitoring on Zoom, and I'll be vocalizing those to the presenters for questions and comments. And we'll also be monitoring comments on Facebook. We're also on Facebook Live, so we'll be able to see feedback from all of you on both of those channels and be getting everyone's feedback that way. Anybody who's on just the phone tonight will also allow an opportunity for people who are on phone only and can't use the chat feature to be able to make comments after we've gone through most of the comments that have been asked in the chat or mentioned in the chat. So we'll get started with some updates that we wanted to announce. These are the 2 agenda items that we have tonight. Presentation in the Shenley Farms neighborhood at 204 Tennyson, and then the Carlow University Institutional Master Plan. And on the next slide, we have some updates of things that we have going on with OPDC that we want you to know about. So we have a community land trust home available for sale on Fraser Street. And it's a large 4-bedroom house with a flat backyard, great views of the Monongahela River. And it's for owner occupancy through the Community Land Trust. And so if you're interested or you know somebody who might be interested in that homeownership opportunity, please have them contact my colleague Jody Lincoln, and we can do a virtual showing or an in-person showing that would be with masks and socially distanced. So it's a great opportunity, and please help us get the word out about that. On the next slide,
sale on Fraser.
Just a few.
You get me the regular lace like I like.
A few updates from other things we have going on. We are hiring right now for somebody to work with us at the Community Land Trust, program director for that initiative. And you can check our website for that job listing. And also it's listed on Indeed and Nonprofit Talent. And you've probably noticed we have some bulletin boards out in the neighborhood at 4 different locations, just to be able to have another opportunity to get information out during a time when we can't do as much door knocking and in-person meetings as we might, as we often did before the pandemic. So please take a look at those as you're on your walk in your neighborhood. And if you have a suggestion for something that is of community interest, you can contact us to have something added to the bulletin board. But we'll use them to put meeting announcements and other sorts of announcements about things that are happening in the neighborhood, ways that people can get involved, and ways that we can keep communication going during the pandemic. And we have election sign recycling at the Oakland Career Center, our office at Semple and Louisa. So if you have some of that can be recycled, that's a place you can drop it off. On the next slide, a few other announcements. There was action at City Council to approve 3 historic designations in the neighborhood. They're listed here. The Shrine of the Blessed Mother the Gallagher Kiefer House, and the Heron Hill Pumping Station. So, those, we have lots of information about those on our website and also Preservation Pittsburgh's website, and really want to acknowledge Preservation Pittsburgh's work on all of those nominations. They did a great job, and they're really interesting write-ups if you have a chance to take a look at those and learn some history about those sites. You can go to the city's website to learn more about the Snow Angels program. So if you are somebody who is able to volunteer to help a neighbor with snow shoveling this winter, please go to that website and sign up. If you're somebody who needs some assistance keeping your property shoveled during the winter, you can also go to that site. And if, to sign up to need assistance. You can also call OPDC if you need help with that application. We would be happy to help you or a neighbor get signed up for that. And there are some mobility hub stations being placed on a couple locations in the Oakland Business District, and you can learn more about that. It's an initiative that the City Department of Mobility and Infrastructure is putting in place at the website here, move412.com. And we'll move on now to our first presentation. So this is in the Shenley Farms Historic District, and a project that's required to go to the Historic Review Commission. And so the address is 204 Tennyson Avenue. And it's my understanding that this is after the fact renovation that needs to go for approval after the work has already been done. So, so it's a project that has been completed, but didn't go through the proper approvals ahead of time, is my understanding, and needs to go through that now. So our presenter is Dr. Wong, who's with us to present, who's the owner of the building. So, so now we can turn over and you can describe your project.
Thank you, Wanda. Hi, everyone. I have to apologize because I never know I have to go through those kind of, process and step. I thought it's a small project. It's just a simple thing, but, luckily, the city called me. The project is not done yet, still ongoing, but I hold it already. Only the window, the door installed. I'd like to go over this project with everyone here. Now, what happened is, this is basically two pictures here I want to show. It's the main property, 204 Tennyson Avenue. I have a fairly big backyard. The small building there, I think the previous owner, I bought this house 2013, 7 years ago. Without really knowing much about this neighborhood, without knowing those regulations at all. What I hear from my realtor at the time when we closed the house, he said, well, you cannot do any, exterior change. I thought it's main building. I didn't consider it a small building, basically. That small building used by the previous owner as a garage. But the garage was very much bad shape when we moved in. What happened is gas door is broken. The garage door actually make a lot of noise. Inside the garage, the floor was, concrete floor was a lot of crack. And even there was a big hole there for replace, previous owner probably their family replaced the engine oil. Our second floor used as a storage, I think it's an attic. A lot of the dirty stuff there, a lot of trash. We in the past few years, we arranged, it was a dumpster type of pickup people to try to move some of those garbage there, and very bad shape. So we actually never use it as garage. Because all the time, squirrels, small animals, bird use the small building as their home. So basically produce a lot of odor, smell very bad there. So I try to clean them once in a while, but it's very hard to do. But due to budget issue, we really had, in the past many years, we didn't really have the budget to try to remodel it. Okay, so recently, early this year, I chatted with a couple of friends in the church. They can do basically the remodel for us. Then I think it's just simple saying, discuss with a couple of friends. I want to turn the garage into a valuable or a usable space, rather use it as a garage. So I did do some historical check. I think the previous owner bought this house where the transaction happening in 1969. So their family occupied the house for many years, as 40 plus years. The old couple sold me the house. So we want to turn this garage into either, for example, my research space or workshop or something like that. I want to just basically get rid of all those birds, all those squirrel, a small animal, try to remodel it and turn into a nice small building. Then I check with a couple of, architecture person. They say this house this small building used to be a Bonner's house. It was over 100 years ago. Look at the interior structure. There's a half bathroom there, electricity, also water, gas line, they have it, but they're very old. So what I did is, of course, we tried to replace all the windows. Because most of the windows are single layer window and broken. Some windows slide down. So basically very cold in the wintertime. Nobody use it, essentially. Only one time, my friend's son come to CMU. He drive the car, park his car there for like 3 months. That's the only time we use it. So showing here is just the schematic of the main building and small building. There was, Tennyson Avenue, the driveway sketch there. Information I already mentioned, basically no maintenance for decade. So I want to do some maintenance. Yeah. The project itself, okay, the history I already mentioned a little bit.
I think we went over that, so we can go maybe to the next slide. There you go.
Yeah, the project details and purpose. So I don't remodel the small building in the backyard, which used as a garage before. Now basically replace old broken windows, replace 2 garage doors. Because the garage door make noise, plus between the small building and my main building, I have a nice yard. I can park 5 cars there. So if I park 5 cars there, then the garage barely can use it because it basically blocks the way. So I can only park up to 5 cars in any case. So I think it better to turn to research space. For example, I'm working on a pit, walking distance to Benton Hall. My laboratory is kind of tight. So I think I move something to here and do some research. That's my purpose. So showing here is some photo I take not long ago before all the leaves for the ground. So I have a driveway here. This is basically a small building I had this front of my building, my main house. So in the past quite a few months, the contractor, he actually replaced it way and put a wall as a concrete composite wall. And also I ordered 2 windows and one door from Home Depot. So he basically take 1 day, 2 days, install that there. I think that caused a trouble for me because, well, there's exterior appearance change, which I didn't know I should go over, go through the process and the things like this. Showing here is the backyard. My daughter's car here. This is my daughter's car, my son's car. Parking here, I can park 5 cars in any case. So I don't really need that garage, 2-door garage, basically for parking. That's why I did this kind of project. It's not completely done yet because the interior still to be done because I needed some permit from the city and the county. That's the way about it. Basically, this project, I hope, of course, first I have to say I apologize. I didn't know I have to go through the all those stage.
Yeah,
Because
you mentioned that.
too much about the neighborhood.
Okay, we'll take some questions. My understanding is that, this was something that, as you mentioned, it's really going for approval after the fact, which again, should have all been done prior to work being completed if one were to follow the proper procedure. And I think that did give some concern to the neighbors, that we'll be able to describe that. So do you live in the home? Why would you need to have 5 cars, I guess, is my question.
Right.
Like a lot, but.
I live there sometime, not all the time. I bought this house at the time, 2013, with a goal to sell the house in Franklin Park and move there because my wife and myself both working at Pitt. The gas price is high, parking costs us. And also, I think my son at the time is about to go to college. He basically got admitted into Pitt. And my daughter, 1 year later, he get into CMU. So I bought this property with, I didn't do too much detailed planning, honestly. Good property, the realtor persuaded me.
I understand. So we'll go into questions now from the community. If people want to enter those into the chat or offer any input, we'll be able to see those. And I don't know if Shenley Farms Civic Association, I see Norm, you're here. If you wanted to, offer any feedback or questions, we could do that either through the chat or you could go ahead and ask.
Thanks, Wanda. I think we can run through this rather quickly. Dr. Wang, it's been 6 years since I spoke with you last. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. Am I to understand that you and your wife still have not moved into the property? And is that true?
That's true, because my young still in Los Angeles County High School.
I see. And so that's right. Your daughter was a senior at the time, as I recall.
Oh yeah.
I would expect. Yeah. And is that the daughter that's currently at CMU?
Right. Senior year.
Oh, good. So your son and your daughter both live in the house?
Yes.
Yes. Does anyone else live in the house?
I have my niece there from my hometown, my brother's daughter. She's a graduate student in the business school in Pitt.
Okay.
And there's another guy. The other guy is my friend, Dr. Zhou, who is in Eaton Corporation. They got a friend in Suzhou City. So the guy's son also the student in Pitt Information Science. So I let my niece and my friend's son live there. There's another guy when Pitt basically forced students move out from the dormitory. That guy was my wife's college friend's son. So I let him live there temporarily. So basically my son, my daughter, and 3 other kids, all 3 other kids, including one of them are my niece. What happened is one of the person will graduate. He's gonna move out early December, basically next month, 2 weeks later. So basically 4 people there in general. And I live there very once in a while. For example, for the weekend, I sometimes stay there because I have office there, I have my bedroom there. That's general situation. The reason took such a
let's try to keep the conversation on point with the items that we need to look out for HRC if we could. That would be
Okay.
great.
So there are two issues, Wanda. There's PLI and there's HRC. PLI is particularly an issue because the plans for the renovation of the property were never submitted for building permit.
I did submit it. Yeah, Loman, I did submit it, but I didn't know what kind of requirement it is. So it took me a while.
Okay,
Find me to submit a drawing by an engineer.
right.
I thought I'm an engineer. I basically make a drawing, I submit it, was never approved. So still pending. What I did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I hired a professional engineer. He come a couple
Okay.
times. He's preparing the drawing and submit to the POI.
All right, so that we can get through this quickly. I suspect that what that what he is preparing for you are floor plans and elevations, mechanicals, electricals, plumbing,
Yes.
all of that
Yes,
detail,
all
which
of
will be submitted to PLI.
Right.
Okay, so since we haven't had the benefit of the ability to look at that, let's just very quickly talk about the interior of the building. You have, from what I understand from your slide, you have put in one full bath.
Yeah, one for that.
Okay, and just one kitchenette?
It's not a full kitchen. It's going to be like a wet bar.
Okay, all right, and you're renovating 2 stories, the ground floor and the second story,
Second store still want to use as a storage place.
just for storage.
Right.
And that second story has a separate entrance from ground
No,
level?
the same uses.
I'm
Because
sorry?
there's the inside.
Just inside, okay. All right, and it's so that I'm clear on the occupancy of the main house, because it's a huge house, Dr. Wang. So when we see that this construction going on in the garage, one must wonder. So you have your son, your daughter, a niece,
Right.
and 3 other people living in the house?
No, two.
Just 2. Okay. All right. So you are just compliant with the city's occupancy ordinance, and that's great. Thank you. Let's move on to the exterior. I don't know if you have noticed, but all of the garages on your street, and on your side of the street in particular, and most of the garages on Lytton, all of these garages are architecturally consistent with the main building. They're
Yes.
finished in the same brick. They have the same trim. They have, if those that have windows have the same window style. So this project of yours would be the only building that deviates from the standard within the historic district. And I think that would be our concern. And it's ultimately up to the HRC to determine what remedies are required in order for them to give you a certificate of appropriateness to continue with your construction. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the fact that the work that's been done on the outside is the only thing it's the only property with inconsistent construction from a architectural standpoint.
Okay, I understand that. So all the windows I intend to replace existing window. Basically, they are replaced with the same style, the same frame color, except the front side, because I couldn't find, when I basically looking for the small window and the door, I couldn't find the window. The door I can paint it back to the dark side, dark brown side. There's a lot of, only the 2 window at the time I ordered it. I didn't know the window was white color. So I basically, the handyman, the contractor pick up from Home Depot and then install it. So
Right.
one thing I can do is I can basically remove that 2 window to replace with a window with the same color and same style. But this 2 window and door are something extra because the garage door was replaced. The corner, the contract card painted corner match very well with the brick. So what happened is this small building, the previous owner extended like 4 or 5 feet from a regional brick building. So that accommodate 2 cars in terms of the length. Then that 4 or 5 feet length, then you see the small roof, just like a small roof extended. that was not the original one. I guess it's the previous owner did it. Because I cannot remove it. What I can do is still keep it, but paint the wall with the same color as a brick.
Well, Dr. Wang, I think these details we don't really need to take everyone's time with tonight, but I appreciate the fact that you've done this research and it's your intent to make some corrections to the work that has already been done as part of your submittal to the HRC. If you recall, and you may not because it's been 6 years, but back when I was president of the Civic Association, I did send you a letter. And in that letter, I advised you of the nature of the neighborhood, the fact that we are an historic district, exterior modifications needed to be approved by the HRC before completion. And I offered the neighborhood's assistance to help with any exterior modifications to the extent that we could then endorse these changes with the HRC. I've been here since 1976, and one of the things that has been very useful has been the neighborhood's endorsement of exterior modifications to the house. I went through this twice for our own property. So HRC tends to be very appreciative of neighborhood endorsement of exterior work that is architecturally consistent with the period. So I'm just reminding you of that to the extent that if the neighborhood can be of assistance to you, we are here for you. We're not here to be obstructionist, but we do want to make sure that the quality of the construction and the exterior facades are consistent with the historic neighborhood. I think that's basically it as far as HRC is concerned. And if I could just make one more comment, I appreciate your consistency with the occupancy limitations for the property. This is very, very important, particularly because of the proximity of this neighborhood to the universities. And I hope that you can appreciate that we are grateful for your efforts to stay within the occupancy limits, which would be not definitely more than 3 unrelated occupants on the property.
Yeah, and most time probably 1 or 2, because I just, from my hometown, anybody or my brother, sister, cousins, son come to pay for SMU, I just let them live there with my son and daughter. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Wang. Good to see you. Hopefully next time we can meet in person and not by Zoom. And thank you, Wanda.
Thank you, Loma. I appreciate your comment. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I'll definitely keep this nice.
If there are other neighbors that would like to comment, maybe they could respond by chat.
Yeah, I'm monitoring the chat. I'm not seeing anyone else. There was one that I think we addressed the number of the occupancy requirement of no more than 3 unrelated individuals, and that it is really the owner's responsibility to to know what the rules are and get the proper permits ahead of time. But I don't see any other comments in the chat. And when are you planning to go to Historic Review Commission?
I'm waiting for the engineer. Supposedly he should give me by tonight, but he asked me to to show him again there and do again the measurement. If it's a mistake before, I say, well, it's Thanksgiving, let's do that in the weekend.
So you don't have a date for HRC is what you're telling us.
I think once we get the professional engineer design, the join, interior join, then I need somebody to POI. Then what second stage is I'm gonna follow. Yeah. To be frankly, I'm still not quite familiar with all those process and steps yet.
Right, we
Dr.
understand that.
Dr.
This
Wang.
is a development activities meeting specifically related to going to the Historic Review Commission. Unfortunately, for those watching, we're unable to tell you exactly when that hearing will be. But if you, Dr. Wong can let me know, we'll be able to update our website and email the Civic Association so that they're aware and they can get that out to their membership. So if you would do that, that would be helpful.
I send an
Be in
email
touch with city planning.
if Norman has an email, send to me. I can probably follow up with Norman or.
Dr. Wong, has your email address changed since
No, it's
2014?
still the same email. Yes, still the same email.
I'll fire off an email to you.
So.
Yeah.
And there's one more
stage.
That I'll verbalize for everybody that there's, as Norm had mentioned, just a concern of people occupying a single family home, as with more than the 3 unrelated individuals. So
we don't have more than 3.
The compliance with zoning code is also a concern that neighbors are expressing.
Yeah, I know that one. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Well, I think that neighbors have cause for worry, so that is something that
I think is overall.
I would take that seriously.
I basically follow.
That is something that neighbors
only in the beginning when I bought this house, that first year, without knowing this kind of regulation, because the realtor didn't tell me.
You mentioned that, and we don't need to reiterate that. That's something that
I understand that. Since then, I never have more than 2 or 3.
We are going to conclude this presentation and move on to our next presentation. If you have a date for Historic Review Commission, let me know and we'll update our website and we'll let the Shenley Farms Civic Association know as well.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
Our next presentation this evening is a development activities meeting required by the City of Pittsburgh for the Carlow University Institutional Master Plan. This is a requirement prior to the master plan being presented at the City Planning Commission. We have had this, there's a page on our website about this. There's also information on the Carlow website, and we have had a presentation several months ago when we were all in person. It might have been a year or so ago. And so this is an update. Carlow has been continuing to work on the plan and have various meetings with stakeholders. This is the development activities meeting that would be required prior to the institutional master plan being presented at Planning Commission. So we'll turn it over to Sean Nelson and David Meadows and Emily Gaspich from Carlow, who can then introduce the rest of the presenters.
Thank you, Wanda. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name is David Meadows. I serve as the Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at Carlow University. With me today is Emily Gaspich, the Director for Capital Planning, Sean Nelson, Special Assistant to the President for Board, Government, and Community Relations. But first, to this evening, I would like to introduce Anna Torrance. Anna is a member of our Board of Trustees. She serves as a member of the Executive Committee of our Board of Trustees. And Anna is here to kick off the Carlow discussion, representing comments from the Diocese of Pittsburgh relative to both conversations and discussions around St. Agnes Center, as well as how that fits into the strategic path for the university in terms of our institutional master plan and the P3 lower campus development. So I'd like to start off and have Anna give comments our slide deck presentation.
All right, thank you, David. Yes, my name is Anna Torrance, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. I serve in that capacity vis-a-vis my role as I'm actually Secretary for Catholic Education and Evangelization at the diocese. So it's really as a delegate, the bishop's delegate. And so I have been, privy, of course, to the planning process here. And I think I just was asked to join this meeting tonight just to speak a little bit to, the piece, which was the relegation in May from to what's under canon law, relegation of St. Agnes Church to profane but not sordid use. So that's in accord with canon law, which is the church law. And basically, that decree was issued by Bishop Zubik to take effect July 1st. And it was really based on a number of rationales, which really, under canon law, there would be certain reasons why this decree would be issued. And so what was the basis for the relegation was really severalfold. One was, the required maintenance of the building, which is in poor condition and very costly to maintain or rehabilitate. Also, from a church's perspective, it's looking at the impact of the closure of a church and its impact on the care of souls. But this really doesn't apply here because this building's not functioned as a parish church for 23 years. That's in 1996 is when Carlow acquired the church. And the university really is not charged with the care of souls as our diocese and the parishes are. Thirdly, and importantly, the rationale was really the pressing need for Carlow to develop this piece of real estate for academic purposes, really to ensure the viability of the university. So looking at, both what was being proposed, its academic and laboratory space, I think as a Catholic university, and what I have known about Carlow for many, many years, I was born and raised in Oakland, and I have a sister who is a graduate. I know that this is a university that served this community quite well. And particularly has lived out its Catholic mission in really responding to, I think under our Catholic social doctrine, that really kind of are themes of kind of Catholic social teaching. And that's really responding to life, to the dignity of the human person, the call to community and service in that community and those responsibilities within a community, which includes option for poor and vulnerable, solidarity, etc. And so, honestly, I think I think I'm proud as a board member, but also as a representative of the diocese to say that this is a university that has been a tremendous asset to this Oakland community. And the opportunity here is really critical to the continuation of that important mission by being able to build what is being presented. And I know David perhaps has shared with you previously, and Sean, some of the details of that plan, and that will be shared tonight as well. But I think it's, from, again, the perspective of the church, that it's furthering an important mission, which will serve this community well. So I know I want to kind of keep my remarks brief, and hopefully have it kind of explain some of the processes and that perspective from the church. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anna. So I do apologize. I'm on my iPad and I'm having some difficulty with the video. So I apologize for not showing my face, but I'm going to continue with the Carlow presentation. And so our first conversation I'd like to reemphasize is the extent to which Carlow has worked to engage the community in our development activities related to both the institutional master plan and of course the lower campus development. So actually, if you could go back one, please. Thank you. So we've had a number of public meetings since 2018, and we're very cognizant of the importance of these discussions with regards to both the broader Oakland community as well as the West Oakland community, which is our very proximate neighbors. We anticipate that for our institutional master plan, we will be moving to the planning commission phase in and around the January 2021 timeframe. And then we are optimistic that we will be moving to the city council phase of our IMP in March of 2021. With respect to our P3 lower campus development, the university is in the phase where we are evaluating proposals for selection of that developer. We are looking at bringing on board a development team, which will be consisting of the developer, the general contractor, and the architect. And we will be having design and construction meetings relating to that project, as well as public meetings beginning in 2021 and continuing with those community and meetings into 22 and 23. And then moving into the planning commission as well for that important development activity. Next slide, please. So again, in responding to the community, we are always looking to increase educational opportunities through the West Oakland neighborhood. That has been one of our key strategies in speaking with the corner and the West Oakland leadership team. We are focused on developing scholarship opportunities specific to the West Oakland community. Those scholarship opportunities would be for our campus school, which is our K through 8 learning community, as well as the Early Learning Center. On a short-term basis, we have committed to tuition waivers for those school opportunities as openings are available. On a long-term basis, the university has committed to building endowed scholarships that are going to be created through our advancement organization and through development partnerships. And those endowed scholarships would be for West Oakland students in grades K through 8. In addition, we are continuing to work and enforce our safe neighborhood and street initiatives. This includes having the Carlow Police Department enforce moving violations, particularly illegal turns at the corner of 5th and Robinson. And the police department reports directly to me. That has been something that I have stressed to our police officers, is to maintain and ensure that we make our streets safe, particularly in the West Oakland neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Again, responding to the community, we are promoting opportunities to work at Carlow University. All Carlow University employment opportunities are on our website, and we are encouraging and continue to encourage community members through West Oakland and through the Oakland region to respond to those employment opportunities. We're excited that our both the P3 lower campus development as well as all of our major construction opportunities will contain a minority, women, and disadvantaged business enterprise goals. We have set forth goals and initiatives in the lower campus development that would align with MWDBE initiatives. And so we're very excited about that. And then also we are committed to having job fairs prior to the P3 construction to increase opportunities for employment here at Carlow. One of the major initiatives that we're really committed to is the creation of the shared recreational space. As you all know, Carlow last year, or excuse me, in 2020, we purchased the old Perry Funeral Home and adjoining parcel. We will be demolishing that funeral home within the next 12 months time period. And shortly after that, we will be working to create a neighborhood playground on that location, which will be right at the southern end of Robinson Street, right near St. Agnes School. So we're really excited about the opportunity to create a shared recreational space that will be used by both the Carlow Campus School and its young occupants, as well as the neighborhood children. Next slide, please. Again, continuing for community service, we are focusing on a wellness and resource center that will be incorporated into the lower campus development that would be supportive of first responders and the community and have a social work focus. We are, as an institute, Carlow, founded by the Sisters of Mercy, and with a high strategy for social justice, diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism. We're continuing a number of community forums and lectures and education, which we encourage and always invite the community to take part in. On a healthcare, we are launching 4 graduate and doctoral programs in the new P3 development. They are speech language pathology, physician's assistant, and then an occupational therapy and physician's physical therapy program. Within that healthcare, we're excited about a speech disorder assessment and intervention program and an occupational therapy resource program that we will be sharing and having collaboration with the community. On the technology front, we are working to align on-campus access in terms of Wi-Fi locations and computer literacy programs. What that means is we're committed to having space in the new building on 5th Avenue that would be available for community resources and Wi-Fi access to West Oakland community neighborhood. And then on the housing, we're also committed as an institution to sponsor adult financial literacy seminars and programs. In terms of the institutional master plan, what I'd like to focus here on this slide is that Carlow University listened to the community back in 2016, and we heard concerns relating to the Lot C development. We heard concerns around St. Agnes School demolition and Aquinas Hall demolition, and the fact that we did not have at that time a very robust and a very detailed plan for our Lot A development. And so through listening to the community, we have made a number of strategic pivots in the way that we are approaching our institutional master plan. Next slide, please. And those pivots are, in fact, we will not be developing Lot C in our 10-year plan. We are not going to be demolishing St. Agnes School. In fact, the university and its board of trustees are committed to a future renovation of the St. Agnes School, which will then house our early learning center as well as our Trinity preschool program. And we understand that there is a need for that type of early learning opportunity within the West Oakland community. And we have been very, as I've said before, we've been very detailed in our community meetings with respect to the lower campus development and what that entails in our community outreach. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to talk through our P3 development timeline, and then I'm going to turn the discussion over to Emily and Sean to continue. This is the university's projected development timeline for our lower campus. We are anticipating, as you see, a selection, evaluation and a selection of our development team by the end of December. And then we would move into the negotiation and due diligence phase of that development, which would take the first 6 months of 2021. And then finally, we anticipate a occupancy of our development for those 4 new health science programs on 5th Avenue to support Western Pennsylvania regional development and workforce needs in August of 2025. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn the conversation over to Emily Gaspich, again, who's our Director of Capital Planning. Emily?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to briefly go over some of the alternatives that have been completed for the St. Agnes Center. As David previously mentioned, back in 2016, we were planning on developing Lot C and demolishing St. Agnes School. And as we heard from community feedback, we decided to relook at our development plans. Back in 2010, maybe even a little bit before that, we did do an adaptive reuse study on St. Agnes Center, looking at how we would add additional floors to create the needed surface area that we would need to reactivate it for the university purposes. If there are any preservationists out there, I'm sure you understand what a unique development repurposing a church can be. Most of them in the city end up as condos or restaurants or nightclubs. So we were really trying to look at, could we make this some type of academic space? Could we make it the library? Could we make it event space? But as we rooted through those alternatives, we realized that either A, we had space like that on campus, or we had buildings that were already amenable to those uses. We did a facilities condition assessment in 2017. We actually looked at all the buildings on site to understand which ones had the most deferred maintenance and which ones worked best with our organizational goals, which are educating the regional workforce. In 2019, we did a highest and best use study of the parcels that are now considered the Lot A development or the 5th and Robinson development, and it looked at various scenarios. Part of the P3 development financing is entering into a long-term ground lease with the developer to help pay for Carlow's academic space. So it was very important for us to understand what types of uses and how much land would be needed to lease to the developer to make our deal viable. So we did look at different uses like office, residential, and mixed use. We also looked at the Historic Review Commission's criteria when they determine if a building should be demolished. We are not in any of the 3 historic districts that have been established in Oakland, so we're not really a contributing structure. Even though the building was designed by an architect of note, the HRC does give allowances for return on investment. And again, if the building can be used for the owner's business purposes. So for St. Agnes School, we're educators. It was very easy for us to find a new purpose there so that we can continue educating. Again, the church is, such a unique adaptive reuse that is something that we are really struggling with to try to find a way where we can still maintain a return on investment and continue with our business practice of educating students. And then we also, in our request for proposals that recently went out, on a national level, we really want to find a development partner that is familiar with public-private partnerships and understands the nuances of that financing structure. We have not received any proposals that would reuse the building as it is. Next slide, please. We do have a concern, and we do make efforts to preserve buildings on campus. Every building along Carlow's main driveway was built between 1929 and 1960. So we do have a lot of older building stock. Most recently, circa 2015, we did renovate Grace Hall, which was our library, and we did turn it more into a multi-use building. It's more of a student union now. And in this lower right-hand corner, you can see the building as it was, and the photo above that shows how it is now. Next slide, please. St. Joseph's Hall was built in 1939, I believe. This renovation was completed in 2019. And as you can see, there is an elevator addition that was added to the building to make it ADA compliant. A finial was added on top of that roof, and that addition really complements that historic aesthetic of the original building. So this is another renovation in reuse that we're very proud of. Next slide, please. We also have the Convent of Mercy on the campus still, where many of our sisters who still live on campus reside. There was an addition built onto the building in 1998. The chapel was added after, or the chapel was added to the building. I believe the convent may have been built in 1929, and it was given a plaque by PHLF as a landmark. I'm not sure what year that occurred. I believe it may have been in the 80s. Next slide, please. One of the other things I wanted to touch upon when we talk about what we will be required to do for any historic mitigations is the items of devotion that exist in a church and the desire of the diocese and, even the Vatican, I believe, to not use some of these items of devotion in secular use. So the example that I like to give is if Google approached us and told us that they wanted this to be their next office building in Pittsburgh, because they are a secular company and do not have Catholic identity, they would have to remove items of devotion. Typically, items of devotion are any things that depict saints or the Holy Family. So many of the items that make this building very special, such as the crucifix on the front of it, or the murals inside, or even the lower level of stained glass windows that do have images of saints, as well as the Holy Family, would not be able to be used in a secular setting. Next slide, please. I think that might be the last one. So if there are any questions or comments, we could take them in the chat, or you can ask the questions or give the comments now.
Can I interject for 1 second,
yes.
please? Prior to taking questions, I would like to introduce Sister Helen Marie Burns. Sister Helen Marie is a member of the Carlow University Board of Trustees and is here tonight to speak to the community from her position as a Sister of Mercy. So, Sister Helen Marie, I'd like to provide you the floor if you're ready to speak.
Thank you, David. Yes, I'm ready to speak, and in a minute there, you'll see me. That's good. Appreciate that. And let me just say, on behalf of the Sisters of Mercy, and I know the Planning Commission has a letter from our leader, who's really Sister Nancy Hoff, but that has said much of what I'll say. But we've been in the city of Pittsburgh, as many of you well know, since 1843, and we have a long history in many of the major cities of the United States. We're a congregation of about 2,300 women. In the course of our long history, and we came to the United States, actually Pittsburgh is the first foundation, so we came in 1843. We have actually relinquished many properties, we have renovated many structures, and we have unfortunately demolished many buildings, but we have never done any of that without careful consideration of the needs of the local area, the needs of the particular ministry which we were embedded, whether it was healthcare, whether it was social services, whether it was secondary, or in this case, higher education. So we have sympathy, and actually I want to thank the preservationists who don't make it easy for these decisions to obliterate our story that is contained in buildings and in architecture. I also, though, would like to suggest that there has been a thorough effort, and the Sisters of Mercy have been informed of that, and some of us, because I happen to be on the Board of Trustees, have been involved in the discussions, and we do, as a congregation, support this institutional master plan. We, in fact, are quite excited about it as a possibility to continue a very fruitful ministry of higher education in the city of Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, the demolition of St. Agnes is a key part of the success of that development, as you can see from all of the information that you have received. We will do all we can. The board has committed itself, the congregation will support that, to preserve those items that Emily was talking about that can be removed and will need to be removed, and to see that they are given a place where they can continue to preserve the story. But we do also recognize that the college itself is an asset and a work, and in some sense, its preservation is a part of the history of the city of Pittsburgh also. And we are very, very pleased to see that there is new energy and new possibilities for that particular ministry in the city of Detroit, yes, the city of Pittsburgh, as we go forward. So my apologies, I'm living in Detroit, so I get a little confused there. But I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have at the end. I'll stay for the question and answer session. And thank you, David. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Sister Helen Marie. So at this time, the Carlow team has completed its presentation, and we'll be glad to take any questions that community members have, whether it's for me or Emily, Sean, or Sister Helen Marie, or I'm not sure if Anna's still here. So we'll take any questions now, Wanda.
Okay, David, I'll facilitate the Q&A. There is a question in on Facebook. We have a comment of, let's get a grocery store in Oakland. That's who basically the person there says, who doesn't want a grocery store in Oakland? Quickly respond, somebody to respond.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
You could simply say that you hear that and your master plan doesn't include a grocery store.
Yeah, our master plan does not include a grocery store.
Okay. Then there's several comments about, there was a question that came up in the chat about what is your percentage goal for participation of minority and women on disadvantaged business enterprises. And that was answered in the chat by Emily.
Yes.
So, Emily, you could read that quickly.
Yes, to reiterate, we are following the county's guidelines, which is 13% for minority businesses and 2% for women.
And then there are comments, a couple of things related to the community commitments that you talk about in your slides. Folks are asking, what is the legally binding? Is there anything in writing? Where would one find that? Typically, that's in the neighborhood enhancement strategy of the institutional master plan and does become binding because it's in the master plan itself. You haven't actually given one comment. I would simply say this is a development activities meeting for the entire institutional master plan, and which you didn't necessarily present here tonight. So I think it's somewhat difficult, but maybe you could point people to where the document lives, because there are many components to a 10-year institutional master plan. And it's true that they have been presented at a community meeting prior to this, but it was very many months ago. So I think we're going to have to point people to the website where the full master plan lives, and people can understand the extent of which your, the document and all the different sections that the document contains, which we didn't see here in your presentation tonight.
Correct. And if there are people that are interested in more of the growth and resiliency sections, such as energy and sustainability and stormwater, I can pull those slides and go through those, but we kind of anticipated that St. Agnes Center would be the real conversation piece this evening, given the recent petition started by Preservation Pittsburgh, and given the feedback that was presented where our IMP lives on our Carlow website.
Well, we will get to that issue for sure.
Yeah.
But it also simply is something that is a requirement for the city, before it goes to the Planning Commission to actually have a development activities meeting on the institutional master plan itself. So simply, I guess, letting people know that the document does exist, and people would have to, I guess, look at it on their own since it wasn't thoroughly presented here tonight.
And naturally,
as you mentioned, it's on the OPD website, correct? As you mentioned.
And naturally, we would be,
website, I think,
we would be happy to come back next month as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think we already have 2 other items scheduled for presentation, but anyway, I mean, we can
base it on the chat. If there are people that want us to come back to discuss TDM and sustainability and stormwater management and resiliency, we'd be happy to do that. And, we could base it on the feedback that we get in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that we could do it that way. Like if people are interested in seeing a presentation of the full plan.
Okay.
Otherwise.
Because again, all of the comments were preservation.
That people would need to see the whole plan on your website. So I guess I'm just putting that out there so people know that there is a full 10-year document and that it does govern development of the campus over the course of 10 years, and that it does also include a section called a neighborhood enhancement strategy, in addition to many other chapters like you mentioned. So I think that's helpful for people to know, just so that people understand what the institutional master plan does, and that it actually becomes the zoning for your campus for a period of 10 years. And each project within the institutional master plan then comes through its own design process related to the institutional master plan. So it goes through a project development review process where each project would have to go through a community process with a development activities meeting, maybe more than one, and prior to going to planning commission for approval, again, kind of taking that project back to the institutional master plan, which governs overall. So I think it's just helpful for people to understand what this document does and what its purpose is. And I think in the chat, getting back to the question of, sort of community benefits and legally binding documents, that you don't have something right now, that you're open to seeing examples, but don't have anything at this time.
But to your point, the IMP is really the legally binding document. But if anyone else out there has examples of something else that was used in the city, we would review that and see if that is appropriate as well, if it covers something that maybe the IMP doesn't.
And then related, there's a question about what outreach have you done to the other neighborhood that's adjacent to your campus, which is the community of South Oakland.
So our public meetings have been open to everybody, but technically our campus is in West Oakland. So I think that just naturally, results in a closer relationship maybe. But I mean, all of our meetings have been open to all of the neighborhoods that are under OPDC's umbrella.
And we have a comment of, that the St. Agnes Center, the work of that architect, builder, and muralist have all been recognized as historic. Yet, there's still the conversation after months and months of feedback in opposition to the demolition. And that there has been a lot of community feedback with a petition approaching 600 signatures in opposition to demolition, community Facebook pages showing overwhelming oppositions. Maybe you could talk about what kind of community feedback the university has received.
So, to your point, we are aware of the petition out there that has, I want to say, over 500 signatures right now, or maybe 600 in opposition. We did receive 20 or so comments on the IMP feedback form. We've received a couple of phone calls stating opposition, but as previously mentioned, we purchased this church back in the 90s. We've been struggling to find a way to adaptively reuse it over the past 2 decades. And we're at the point now where we feel in order to move forward, it needs to be demolished.
And another comment says that, wisdom is the ability to discover alternatives. Carlow has about 15 acres. No one would consider tearing down Hines Chapel. The St. Agnes murals are very beautiful. No one would destroy the John Alexander murals at the Carnegie. It's a church that was built to last for centuries, consecrated with the devotion and prayers of the congregation, including people who worked at the steel mills. It's not a stretch to say, that it's inspired architecture that shouldn't go to a landfill. And it's also a portal to Oakland, and destroying a spiritual, cultural, and artistic heritage is not a good path to a caring future.
Maybe, could I make a comment to that comment and just say 3 things very, very simply? First of all, as Emily has indicated, this has not been a church since it was purchased by the university, and that was in 1996, if I'm correct. There is no question of the beauty, and there's no question of the architectural value. The prominence of Heinz and the prominence of Carnegie is not the prominence of Carlow University. So, I mean, right there, you've got some of the reason why perhaps this is our decision, and it wouldn't be the decision of a Heinz family or certainly of a Carnegie's heritage. There are resources there that we don't have. We are hoping that we're not destroying, but creating and deepening the spiritual, cultural, and artistic heritage. We remain as a value, faith-based Catholic institution in the area and educating and forming persons who will enrich not only Pittsburgh, but some of the surrounding territory. And indeed, we have students that come from all over the world. So I think that's just moving it a little bit broader than what's happening here to suggest that the spiritual, cultural, and artistic heritage is gone when the church is gone. I would argue the church has been gone now since 1996. The building that we're dealing with, the university made a very good faith effort to preserve. And at this point in time, our resources don't permit that.
So to summarize, there are a couple of other questions. Let's see. Will Carlow close down without this development? Will Carlow's future be unsustainable? And have you considered selling air rights?
We are not going to sell air rights. We did look at that. That is not, we do not feel that's beneficial to us. I think all of the higher education institutions are pivoting for the 2025 cliff, which is a loss in traditional students. And so this is Carlow's way to be resilient as we lose more traditional students and make room for adult students and graduate level courses. I mentioned that, you know, our buildings are very old, and not just the exterior, you know, the interior a lot of times does not support the type of high-tech learning environments and lab spaces that we need now. It's not as simple for us to go into a building and do a room renovation without needing to renovate pumps and electrical panels and that type of stuff. So we do want new competitive space in the innovation zone that is naturally occurring on Fifth Avenue and Forbes Avenue. And that is the direction that we're headed.
And Wanda, let me add a comment to the question. And I'd like to maybe piggyback off of what Sister Helen Marie Burns just said and articulated very well. Our Board of Trustees is in unanimous agreement that in order for the university to continue to thrive and to continue to provide the level of academic services and workforce needs and education to our students, this lower campus development is the #1 priority of our institution. And I really can't make that more clear. As Emily said, we are entering a period in our country where the number of 18 to 20-year-old students is declining rapidly all across the country. It is more pronounced in certain areas of the country than others. Western Pennsylvania is one of them. And so Carlow needs to make very strong and strategic pivots to address those issues, and which is one of the primary reasons why we are launching these 4 high-profile health services graduate and doctoral programs. We're looking to bring and create the gateway to the innovation district in relation to our where we're located on Fifth Avenue. And this is the linchpin and the transformational project for our university. So for anyone at the community meeting that is asking, is it critically necessary for our survival? That answer is yes, it is.
And we had a question, I think that about the parking lot off of Terrace Street, whether you would consider that to be developed. And you did answer that. That is the Lot C. And the plan does not include development of that property in the 10-year master plan.
Correct. And part of the reason is because when we proposed it the first time around, one of the community concerns was that it was too close to some of the residential density. And, you know, we do recognize that. And we are trying to capitalize on the BRT corridor and the fact that there should be transportation-oriented development around that BRT line to, you know, maximize its efficiency.
And we have provided a link to the institutional master plan in the chat. The link on our page will take you to it. And there's one more question about beyond adaptive reuse, what about incorporating the church into a new development? Which I guess seems to me is adaptive reuse. I don't know if the Chris, if your question, if you mean that it's actually using it as a church again. But anyway, the comment is to enhance rather than diminish the streetscape there on Fifth Avenue.
We did consider if there was a scenario where the facade could be kept. But again, going back to the secular use, if that is not our space, we would have to remove the items of devotion. And then we wondered if it would diminish the center itself, because there would be large structures on it that may not necessarily complement what is there now. So we thought that it might be more, I'm grasping for the word. We thought it would be contra to the goal of keeping the facade there, because it would not honor it in any way.
And Wanda, let me strongly suggest, again, as Sister Helen Marie Burns indicated, for purposes of the minutes and to be very accurate, I would refrain from anyone calling this building a church. It is not a church. No one should call it a church. It has not been a church since 1995. So to continue to call it a church is inaccurate. And for the purposes of minutes and discussion, we should cease doing that. Carlow University never calls it St. Agnes Church. It is St. Agnes Center, and it has been St. Agnes Center since 1995.
And to add to that, the process of relegation by the diocese, which Anna Torrance spoke about, renders the building no longer sacred, and it is, in the views of the church, it is brick and mortar.
I'm seeing in the chat that people consider it to be a historic structure of value. Yes. And I think I've summarized those, that's what, you know, so that's what people are mentioning. There was one comment in the chat about, you know, that a presentation of the full plan would be in order. I really don't know exactly the course to take, and that I would really maybe look to city planning to advise on that.
If you can't accommodate us in December, we can come back in January and do another development activities meeting.
Yeah, do you have a planning commission date yet?
No, because we need to resubmit our final draft.
Okay. yeah, I think it's maybe a good idea. So anyway, so I guess we'll follow up on that and let everyone know. So potentially do that overall of all the different sections of the plan and what's in it and how the plan works and how it becomes a legal document in terms of zoning and what the process is for planning commission and city council might be the kind of thing that's helpful for the community to have that information. So we could discuss that. And I think there might be one person who is on the phone only. And if there's something that we haven't covered yet, if that person could hit *6 and unmute, and we'll take a second if you would like to verbalize a question. Okay, hearing none from anybody on the phone. I think that we've covered everything in the chat. And I appreciate everyone attending tonight and spending your evening with this information. And we are planning our next meeting in December would be a week earlier because of being close to the Christmas holiday. So we are holding that meeting on Tuesday, December 15th, and we're firming up the two presentations that are going to be on that agenda, and we'll get that out as soon as we have it confirmed. And Oakwatch is not meeting in December, and that meeting is in January. And if you're not following us on social media, please do. And if you'd like to sign up to get our e-newsletter and e-blast about meetings, please go to our website and sign up for our e-newsletter. You could also just email questions@opdc.org and say that you'd like to be added to the list, and that would work as well. So thank you again to all of our presenters and to everybody who attended tonight and participated in this robust discussion. Really appreciate it. I'm looking to see one more. Okay, and have a good and safe holiday at all of your very small gatherings that we're all having this year. So thanks everyone very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you, Wanda.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Good Thanksgiving.